oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
When the Prime Minister invoked the Emergencies Act on Canadians, he said it was because police said they needed it. Well, yesterday we found out that wasn't quite true. The RCMP Commissioner clearly stated in committee yesterday that the RCMP didn't request that the Act be invoked and that police used existing legislation to resolve border blockades. Speaker, we cannot trust these Liberals to tell the truth on why they use the Emergencies Act. So will they stop the cover-up, come clean and release all the documents related to Cabinet decisions around the Emergencies Act? Yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as Commissioner Lucky told the committee, the Emergencies Act allowed police to maintain a secure perimeter and refuse entry of individuals travelling to the illegal protest with the intent of participating. It gave police, quote, the enforcement authority to arrest individuals who continued to supply fuel, food and other materials, and it gave police, quote, new powers to compel individuals to provide essential goods or services for the removal, towing and storage of vehicles and equipment. We've now announced the independent inquiry to examine the circumstances that led to the declaration and the measures taken in response. We all look forward to Justice Rouleau's work and the inquiry's answers on this matter.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the problem is the Prime Minister has been spreading misinformation and disinformation about the protest. He called people names, he wedged, divided, and spread misinformation about them. Speaker, those who have nothing to hide nothing. But it's clear this Prime Minister is worried about Canadians hearing the facts. The fact is the Prime Minister didn't have a legitimate reason to use the Emergency Measures Act. It was an overreach, and now he's trying to cover that up and use Cabinet confidence as an excuse. Isn't that the truth, Mr. Speaker?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The issue seems to be the Conservatives seem really frightened about the fact that there's going to be an open, transparent inquiry into these illegal blockades, these illegal protests that they were continuing to support throughout. Mr. Speaker, Canadians were disrupted in their homes, in their communities, in their places of work by these illegal blockades, and we took the responsible and restrained measures necessary in order to restore order to this country and continue to defend peaceful protests everywhere. That matters, Mr. Speaker, and that's what we're continuing to do.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are struggling every day because of this government's policy, whether it's the cost of living, long lineups at airports, or continued mandates. Canadians are worse off today than they were 6 years ago. Now, Canadians know the Prime Minister doesn't have to go to a grocery store. He doesn't have to pump or pay for his own gas. Canadians know the Prime Minister doesn't have to wait in line at airports. He doesn't have to wait for a passport at a Service Canada office. The Prime Minister simply has no understanding or empathy for Canadians, and because of that, he's doing nothing to fix all of the problems he's created over the last 6 years. Isn't that the sad but real truth, Mr. Speaker?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Over the past 6 years, we've been focused on supporting the middle class and helping those working hard to grow to join it. We've continued to have Canadians' backs with things like lowering taxes on the middle class so we can raise them on the wealthiest 1%. We moved forward with a Canada Child benefit that stopped the Conservatives' practice of sending millionaires checks for their families and instead gave more money to the families who actually needed it. We continue to move forward in increasing supports for seniors, increasing supports for young people, and during the pandemic, Mr. Speaker, we had Canadians' backs. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, every step of the way, Conservatives voted against these measures.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has become a master in the art of disinformation, and it was the RCMP Commissioner herself who demonstrated this clearly in committee. 1, the RCMP never asked for the Emergency Measures Act. 2, the RCMP never asked to have protesters' bank accounts frozen. And 3, in fact, the RCMP learned at the same time as the rest of us that the Prime Minister had invoked the Act. Does the Prime Minister agree that the law was unnecessary and only a political decision? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. As Commissioner Lucky said in committee, the Emergency Measures Act enabled the police to maintain a security perimeter and refuse entry to people wanting to join the illegal demonstration. The act gave the police the power to arrest people who continued providing fuel, food, and other equipment, and it also provided new powers to prevent people from providing services or that to enable people to tow vehicles and so on. Now there's an independent inquiry into the circumstances, and we will continue to remain open and transparent. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, that all happened afterward, but the RCMP said they didn't need it. That's the fact the Prime Minister is trying to avoid. Making stories up and denying reality, that's the Prime Minister's specialty, Mr. Speaker. Despite the fact that the Prime Minister's office has in hand a study that says Canadians are being forced to take a second job to make ends meet, they're delaying their retirement plans and postponing vacations, the Prime Minister is currently not doing a thing about it. After 2 years of pandemic, Canadians deserve better. When will the Prime Minister come down to earth and give families a break on gas tax? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. If the Conservative Party seriously wanted to make life more affordable for Canadian families, they wouldn't delay passage of the Budget Implementation Act from day one. To make life more affordable, the budget provides a 2-year ban on foreign investment in property. We're doubling the tax credit for access to housing and other assistance Canadians need, including $2 billion to the provinces and territories to reduce wait lists for surgeries. We are there to help Canadians. The Conservatives are playing political games. The Honourable Member for Belleuil